Hey, what's up? Zidal Ness from mimicmethod.com, where you learn foreign languages by focusing on pronunciation. And today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to pronounce the R sound, written as R in French, German, and European Portuguese, as well as several other these languages and struggling with this sound. Then I recommend you check out a video I made on this sound in Spanish, where I explain the story of after almost 20 years of not being able to make that sound, I was able to eventually get it due to focusing on the right things and practicing. Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get the R sound, and if you keep practicing at it, you will get it and you will speak faster or speak more fluidly, understand more, etc., etc. Alright, now pronunciation is physical, so you need to have an awareness, a physical awareness of what's going on in your mouth when you make these sounds. This sound, R, is called the uvular consonant. The uvular consonant. Named such because that little dangly thing in the back of your throat here, you see that? It's like in the Looney Tunes cartoons where Bugs Bunny's punching that little punching bag in the back of the lion's mouth. That's called your uvula, all right? And this sound is made at the uvula by placing the back of the tongue against the uvula and causing it to kind of vibrate. Now, to be clear, there's actually 5 different uvular consonant sounds you need to be aware of. The first, the one I just did, that's called the voiced uvular trill, okay? If I deactivate my voice, it would be called the voiceless uvular trill. All right, then trill, what that means is that uvular thing is kind of vibrating on its own. But actually, there's only certain dialects of German or French or whatever that you actually hear this sound. What's more common and what's more relevant to you as a learner is what's called the uvular fricative. Okay, we have the voiced one, r, and the voiceless one, okay? Now, this sound is created by placing the back of your tongue against the uvula, which can be a very awkward movement for people who don't have this sound in their language, because we never move our tongue that way. But we do use the back of our tongue in English, and we do that for the sounds K and G, k, g, k, g. So to learn this sound, you need to start with the K. This is called the voiceless velar stop. Now, if you look close in my mouth, you can see that the back of my tongue is moving up to what's called the soft palate or the velum. To feel your soft palate, take your finger, wash it first, insert it into your mouth, and if you feel the roof of your mouth where it's hard, that's called the hard palate. Now, if you stick your tongue or your finger back even more until you feel soft tissue, but not so far that you start to choke and gag and vomit, this is called your soft palate. And when you make the k, k sound, what you're doing is raising the back of your tongue to the soft palate. So we make this sound without thinking about it, but we're doing something physically in our mouth to create the sound. And if you develop an awareness of what you're doing to make the K sound, you are essentially developing an awareness of back of the tongue movement. All right. Now, once you have an awareness of the back of the tongue movement, you can start to develop a control of that movement. Once you can control it, if you have a visualization of what's going on in your mouth, imagine my soft palate is here. My uvula is hanging from the soft palate. That is the base upon which from which the uvula is dangling and hanging. Okay, which means that in order for me to take the back of my tongue to the uvula, I need to pull that back of the tongue a little bit more down and back. So I'm kind of going this direction. Okay, so here's how you can do this. Start with the K. This is a stop manner of articulation, and I want you to place your tongue there and then force air through it while keeping your tongue pressed like this. Okay, that's called a velar fricative. Fricative is when two things press against each other and then air is forced through the point. Now, I want you to kind of slide the back of your tongue downward without leaving contact with the roof of your mouth. Now, when you get that dirtier, more guttery kind of sound, the reason why it changes sound is because the surface changes from the velum, your soft palate, to your uvula, that dangly thing. Listen again. This is called the voiceless uvular fricative. And you'll hear this sound in French words such as trois, or proche, or crevasse. All right, so anytime you have a voiceless consonant like p, k, or t before an R sound in French, you'll have this voiceless uvular fricative. But you also need to learn what's called the voiced uvular fricative. It's the exact same sound with the back of your tongue against the uvula, but now your voice box is vibrating. You have a sound. This can be very challenging for people once they get the voiceless version to coordinate that with voicing. The way you should practice is to develop an awareness of voicing. If I say right now I'm voicing. If I say I'm not voicing. If I alternate between the two and then try to mash them together, I'll get voiced. Alright, now I have the voiced uvular fricative, which you'll find in French words like drôle and brot, and or brot's German, sorry. Right now I'm confusing the languages, but bruyant, I don't know. So it's French words that have that in there somewhere. Getting it right now. But point is that whenever you have a voiced consonant such as b, g, grand y, or d, the d, then you will have the voiced uvular fricative. Also at the beginning of words such as rouge. C'est rouge, rouge, rouge. Now you'll notice when I have to extend it, I'll start to do what's called a trill. And that is when you're placing the uvula at the perfect position so that the thing starts to move, or placing the back of your tongue at the perfect position so that the uvula starts to trill on its own. This is not necessary. You'll hear this in certain dialects of French. I wouldn't worry about it, but you start with the fricative, and if you really want to get a trill going, then you just have to fool around and try to find that sweet spot. Now I want to tell you one more sound that's going to be useful to you if you're learning French, and that's what's called the voiced uvular approximant. Okay? Voiced uvular approximant. So, same place of articulation, back of the tongue against the uvula. It's voice box activated, but unlike the fricative, the back of my tongue is not actually touching the uvula. It's getting close, it's approximating it, like this. Okay? Now, why is this important? Because the fricative sound, because you're making contact and you're moving your tongue more, requires more energy, which means that when you speak fast, you might not be able to hit it, which it's a problem a lot of people have when they're trying to mimic French speakers. They're like, man, how do they make that sound so fast so often? It's because they're cheating. They don't make that sound all the time. Sometimes they kind of pump fake it and then get the back of the tongue close to the uvula, but don't actually touch it, hence the approximant, like this, merde. C'est merde. Right? So when you listen to French very quickly, listen close. There's a very slight difference between a r and a r, where it gets close. And if you're able to mimic it, then you too will be able to speak French fast without expending all that extra energy and friction to hit all the R sounds. Okay? And this does not occur in German, but these sounds are also important in German. Brot, Proust, in Portuguese in Europe, whenever you have an R sound at the beginning of a word, it'll be this sound, Rio de Janeiro, Rio. Alright? So this sound is very common in many languages, and for that reason, people who are not able to pronounce it, this is the number one thing stopping you from being able to speak the language quickly with fluency and a good accent. So this is a very important sound for you to focus on if you're learning French, German, Portuguese, and many other languages. I know Hebrew has it, I believe Arabic has it, and it just pop up lots of different places. So I hope that was useful. If you have any more questions, please ask me in the comments. And if you have anyone who's learning German or learning French or Portuguese in Europe, please share this video with them, because 9 times out of 10, this will be the biggest challenge they have in learning that language, so it'll be very useful for them. And if you like this video, let me know, and see you next time.